Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to decode a truly fascinating travel guide to the afterlife. It's based entirely on the teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And let me tell you, this text fundamentally flips absolutely everything we think we know about the end of life. So, what happens right after we die? I mean, it's the ultimate human mystery, right? But instead of just giving us vague philosophical guesses, the ancient text we're exploring today offers something wild, a highly detailed chronological roadmap of the exact journey our consciousness takes the very second our physical body shuts down. Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap. We're going to cover 5 main sections today. First, the guidebook to the afterlife. Second, the moment of death. Third, visions of the mind. Fourth, the Bardo body. And finally, choosing your next life. All right, starting off with Section 1, Guidebook to the Afterlife, looking at its origins and background. This text actually has a remarkable centuries-long history. Now, originally, its true title translates to something closer to The Great Liberation Upon Hearing in the Intermediate State. It was composed way back in the 8th century by the Indian mystic Padmasambhava, who actually hid these sacred Sanskrit texts. They just lay hidden, completely in secret, for centuries, until around 1350 CE. That's when they were miraculously rediscovered by, of all people, a 15-year-old boy named Karmalingpa. And it actually wasn't until 1927 that Oxford University Press published the very first English translation, which literally changed how the West viewed Eastern spiritual psychology forever. Now, to really grasp this journey, we first have to understand the word Bardo. You're going to hear this term a lot today. Bardo literally represents the intermediate transitional state between death and rebirth. You see, this text completely reframes death for us. It's not just some final resting place where you sleep forever. No, it is an incredibly active, dynamic phase of transition where your consciousness is wide awake and working through various stages. It's almost like a cosmic waiting room, but way more intense. So our journey through the Bardo breaks down into 3 major macro stages. First, there's the actual moment of death, where the ultimate goal is recognizing a profound light. Second is the Bardo of reality, where the mind has to face these intense karmic visions and deities. And third, the actual process of rebirth, which involves navigating what the text calls the womb door. Moving right along to Section 2, the moment of death and recognizing the light. The text explains that at the exact moment your bodily functions cease, bam, a dazzling primary clear light appears instantly. It is pure radiance. But, well, here's the catch. The window to actually recognize this light and achieve immediate total liberation is incredibly brief. The text notes it lasts only as long as an inspiration, so basically a single breath, or maybe the time it takes to eat a quick meal. But if you recognize this pure radiance as your own true nature right then, boom, you are liberated on the spot. But let's be real. How do you actually do that in such a jarring, overwhelming moment? Well, to achieve liberation right at this split second, practitioners have to be intensely prepared during their waking life. You absolutely cannot just wing this. The required actions involve recognizing that clear light, applying spiritual transference, reciting very specific prayers, and visualizing the light to attain liberation. It takes immense mental discipline to not just completely panic, but instead focus completely as you transition out of your physical form. Now, if you miss the primary light, which, let's face it, most of us probably will because of fear or just simple distraction, you do get a second chance. The secondary clear light dawns a bit later. However, while the primary light offers clean, immediate liberation, this secondary light, it's a lot trickier, because by now your consciousness is starting to wake up more to its weird new reality, which means karmic illusions begin creeping in. That makes it so much harder to keep your focus and avoid wandering right back into the cycle of suffering. Which brings us to Section 3, Visions of the Mind and the Bardo of Reality. Check out this incredible quote from the text. All divine lights and radiances encountered in the Bardo are emanations of one's own mind and intellect. Guys, this is the core psychological twist of the entire manual. When you're in the afterlife, the entities, the judges, the terrifying sounds, they aren't external beings waiting to punish or reward you. Not at all. They are literal mirrors of your own inner faculties, your own intellect, and your own karma. The whole thing is just a pure projection of your consciousness playing out right in front of you. So, over your first week in this state, specific peaceful deities dawn in exact, completely predictable color sequences. On day 1, Vairocana appears as this dazzling blue light, representing the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. On day 2, Vajrasattva dawns in pure white, And in the days following, you'll see Ratnasambhava in yellow, Amitabha in red, and Amoga city in green. The text explicitly tells us that recognizing these specific figures with faith, instead of, fleeing from them because you feel unworthy, is exactly what prevents you from falling into lower realms of existence. But spoiler alert, it doesn't stay peaceful for long. Eventually, wrathful deities show up. And the incredible secret here is that these terrifying, blood-drinking, wrathful deities with their fierce weapons, they are actually just the peaceful deities in disguise. They just symbolize your own intense inner energies. The sheer terror you feel is a complete illusion. If you run away from these terrifying beasts, you just plunge deeper into suffering. But if you can recognize them as just another emanation of your own mind, you attain liberation instantly. All right, let's jump to section 4, the Bardo body, also known as the Sidpa Bardo. So about 3.5 days after death, you acquire what the text calls a desire body. It's this radiant, thought-form body shaped entirely by your habitual propensities from your past life. And it comes with some pretty wild upgrades. It resembles your former physical body and has full sense faculties, but it can literally pass unimpeded through solid objects. We're talking walking right through walls or even mountains. It also possesses miraculous powers like instant travel. You literally just think of a place and bam, you're immediately there.
But hold on, it is definitely not a superhero fantasy. Despite having these incredible superpowers, the experience is described as extremely distressing. The text actually says the mind wanders like a feather in the wind through a constant gray twilight. Imagine this. You return to your home, you see your grieving relatives, and you try to speak to them, but they just can't hear you. The frustration and sorrow of that one-sided communication drives your consciousness further along, pushed uncontrollably by these powerful karmic winds.
And that pushes us into section 5, choosing your next life and the process of rebirth. On average, this entire dizzying intermediate state lasts around 22 days. Now, sure, this can range anywhere from 1 to 7 weeks, but 22 days is the typical baseline. And during this entire time, you're driven completely by the momentum of your past karma, hurtling toward a new physical existence and seeing crazy visions of the different worlds you are being pulled toward. But the good news? You still have agency. The guidebook provides very specific techniques for what it calls closing the womb door to avoid undesirable reverse. You basically have to visualize tutelary deities, absolutely abstain from any feelings of attraction or repulsion to the visions you're seeing, and recognize all phenomena as mere illusions. You're specifically warned to avoid certain lights that might drag you to realms like the Eastern Deva or Hell worlds. Instead, you need to meditate intensely on the clear light and voidness. It's all about having single-minded resolve right in the face of total chaos. Now we're reaching the end of the text's profound promises. It states, the teachings aim to liberate by sight and sound even for those with heavy karma, achieving instant transformation. Basically, this means that no matter how heavy or bad your past karma might be, simply hearing these teachings read to you and truly recognizing their truth in the Bardo can offer instantaneous spiritual liberation. I mean, it is called the Great Liberation upon hearing for a reason. The sound alone carries the power of profound awakening, cutting right through all those illusions. And all of this brings us to a final, incredibly profound question. If the terrifying demons and the breathtakingly beautiful deities of the afterlife are just projections of our own minds, well, what illusions are you projecting in your waking life right now? It leaves us with a truly transformative thought. If the afterlife is just a flawless mirror of the mind, how might recognizing our daily waking illusions change how we live and how we love right here today?